Good evening, buonasera a tutti. My name is Stan Pugliese. I'm a professor of history at Hofstra University and the director of the Italian-American lecture series for the past 25 years. Some housekeeping for this evening before we begin. In order to have the best experience for everyone, could you please put your screen on speaker view, turn your video off, and mute your microphone, except when it's your turn to speak. If you have any comments or questions, please put them in the chat, which will be monitored by my colleague from the Cultural Center, Carol Mallison, and we'll get to those questions at some point in the evening. Tonight's Zoom event is the second and final part of a series that we're calling a retrospective preview of the opera SACCO and Vanzetti, begun by Marc Blitzstein and completed by Leonard Lehrman, who is with us tonight, along with Bronx Opera General Director Benjamin Spierman and members of the cast who have sung or will sing roles in the opera. The piece concerns an important moment in Italian and American history 100 years ago, when two anarchist immigrants were railroaded to their death for crimes that they did not commit, despite a worldwide outcry, and were exonerated 50 years later by then Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis, who became a character in Lehrman's completion of what Blitzstein called his magnum opus, which he died before completing in 1964. The opera was scheduled to receive its New York premiere at Hofstra's Italian American Festival last year and this year, until both festivals were unfortunately canceled due to the pandemic. This project is made possible with funds from the Decentralization Program, a re-grant program of the New York State Council on the Arts, with the support of the Office of the Governor and the New York State Legislature, and administered by the Huntington Arts Council. Support has also come from the Puffin Foundation and the Professor Edgar H. Lehrman Memorial Foundation for Ethics, Religion, Science, and the Arts. 2 nights ago, as some of you know, you were with us, we heard the first half of the opera, and tonight we'll hear the last 2 scenes of Act 2 and all of Act 3 in a recording conducted by Dr. Lehrman, videotaped by Mr. Spierman at the White Barn Theater in Westport, Connecticut on August 19th, 2001. Note that the date was just 23 days before the terrorist attack on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, after which producing an opera with anarchists as protagonists and law enforcers as villains became something of an uphill battle, at least until the issue of immigration began drawing national attention and sympathy once again. I'm going to ask Dr. Lehrman to summarize the 2 scenes we're about to watch, and then we'll interview a few folks before going on to the video of the opera itself. Len.
Thank you, Stan, and thank you, Hofstra. Act 2, Scene 4 is based almost entirely on the trial transcript in which Vanzetti and then Sacco were mercilessly needled about their politics and opposition to war. District Attorney Frederick Katzman and Judge Webster Thayer behaved almost like 2 prosecutors, overwhelming the defense lawyers, including California Attorney Fred Moore, who prompted outrage by appearing in court in sandals. That role in the new production will be played by Thomas Smith, an adjunct professor of history and sociology at a number of schools in Brooklyn and Manhattan, and who is with us now, but has to go teach a class in an hour. So I'm going to ask him to greet us now. Tom, can you turn on your video? Start your video.
Trying, but I can't. It says,
all right, I'll do it for you.
You cannot touch a video because the host has stopped it.
All right, let's start it again somehow. Ask to start video. Now you should be able to do it.
Start my video.
There you go. Okay. So hello, Tom.
Hello, Leonard. Hello, Helene. And hello, Ben.
Tom has been both a student and an inspiration to both me and Helene in piano, composition, and voice since 2003. Among other things, he made the only recording on YouTube of Strange Funeral in Braddock, the first published song by Hofstra's first composer in residence, Ellie Siegmeister, who was my mentor. And Tom also created the role of the defense attorney in my opera, The Triangle Fire, which was actually a rather unsympathetic role that he played with sometimes delicious malice. Fred Moore and journalist Philip Stong, which Tom will also be singing in Act 3, Scene 4, are much more sympathetic roles. So Tom, how do you feel about that?
Oh, I like portraying bad guys, but sometimes it's nice to play someone people care about too.
Well, Fred Moore actually had a terrible fight with Sacco and left the case, but we don't cover that in this opera. It's covered in Anton Coppola's opera, and Ben saw that. Maybe he'll talk about that later. Moore was brought into the case by Elizabeth Gurley Flynn, who's one of our heroes. Helene recorded a song cycle I wrote on her poetry. And Moore was the one that made the case an international cause célèbre, for which he deserves at least some credit. I think that Vanzetti may have been grateful for that, although Sacco wasn't. What do you tell your history students, Tom, about Sacco and Vanzetti, and will they come to the opera?
I'll certainly tell them how important the work is and urge them to come, especially because I'm half Sicilian American myself, as soon as we know when and where it will be performed.
Okay, very good. So we'll let you go now, and I'll go back to my summary of the end of Act 2. The jury convicts Sacco and Vanzetti fairly quickly, and in Scene 5, Sacco is at first visited by Mrs. Evans, to whom he confides his frustrated need for activity to fight off depression, how he wishes he could make the whole shoe instead of just parts of it at the factory. That aria, the whole shoe, Blitzstein started 16 times, but he never got beyond the 30th measure, so it was my labor of love to complete that, among other things. After Mrs. Evans leaves, Sacco sings one of Blitzstein's most beautiful arias, the only one that he wrote from start to finish in this opera, With a Woman to Be, about his courtship of and love for his wife, Rosa. After the aria, he hallucinates, thinking that he sees her being tortured, has a mad scene, as Vanzetti, the other inmates and guards manage to quiet him down. Suddenly, a guard appears with a letter from a young Portuguese immigrant named Celestino Medeiros, a part which I cast as a trouser role, portrayed by the same singer who earlier sang Rosa Sacco in our new production, Perri Sussman, whom I will ask to unmute and read that letter.
I hereby confess to being in the South Braintree Shoe Company crime, and Sacco and Vanzetti were not in said crime. Celestino Medeiros.
And so, with a cliffhanger, Act 2 ends with everyone wondering what will happen now.
Stan, we want to put your video on and unmute.
Sorry, I forgot that I still have a role in this production. And
you do.
now here are Act 2, Scenes 4 and 5 of the Blitzstein Lehrman opera Sacco and Vanzetti.